Okay, now we're on the clock. It's not
Hmm.
like we have to watch what we say,
Right.
but when we start these things in the green room, it's just my nature that once we get going, I wish I would have recorded what we had begun on
Right.
because that little fractal well was important. Anyway,
Hmm.
I um I really wanted to kind of give you a chance to share what happened at Shasta. And
Hmm.
there's always an unpacking period, at least for me, and I assume it's the same with everybody else. You need some time to assimilate, especially once you
Oh,
get back in your 3D
whew,
world and you have to plug back into
yes.
that.
Oh,
Where does everything else assimilate? So here's your op.
yeah. Oh, it was so good when I came home. I was like on top of the world. Like I was seeing everything so clear. And then like I jumped back into my work life and it was like everything is like so distorted. And I'm like, I need to get back to how I felt when I got home. So what's helped me a lot was actually the rock that I took from Shasta, my little pyramid. So when I need to connect, I put it in my heart space and I breathe and then I can connect. And what's weird about this is since I brought this rock home, I put it on my nightstand every night and I either dream about Mount Shasta or I'm like astral traveling. Like it's so magical. I love this. This is what I've been waiting for. Um, it feels like home. Um, I don't even know where to begin because so much happened. Um, what should we talk about first? The Should we talk
Well,
about
let me set the
Black Butte?
stage here first. Had you been there before?
No, but I dreamt
Okay,
about it.
so
I dreamt about it in 2019, and I dreamt of a tree that my friend found for me. I drew it out, and it was at the headwaters. And I have no idea what that tree means to me. I haven't figured that out yet, but I've been dreaming about her, and I finally got to go. So I'm not
I'm
sure what
curious.
that all
One
means.
day when you tell me where that is, there's a tree that I'm connected to at the headwaters as well. And I'm wondering whether it's in the same location or it's in fact the same tree because it's got its own little character. But we'll talk
Well,
about
I
that
mean,
another day because we're talking about
there
you.
were a couple trees, but the one I dreamt about is in like that parking lot with like the engravings.
Yes.
So
That's not the one I was referring to, but I'm
yeah, I didn't
familiar
think
with what
so.
you're talking about. No. Um, there's a place at the headwaters where I go fill my canteens and whatnot. And it's not where everybody else goes. If you kind of look at the headwaters from where it is and look up, you see that there's a road, there's a trail that follows it back that way.
Mhm.
Well, if when you get there, instead of going where everybody else goes, you follow that path a little bit, there's a path on the other side of the water over there. And there's a little pool there where I fill my water. And it don't seem like anybody knows that this is here.
Huh.
On the way down that little path is where that tree is. And it's
Okay.
unmistakable. And there's like a face in the tree. And
Oh,
anyway,
yeah, I don't think
back
I
to
saw
you.
that tree. I was with my friend. There was two rather large trees. We called one the grandfather tree, one the grandmother tree, just big, beautiful, great energy. Just want to give him a hug. It just feels so good. Um, let's see what else. Do you want to talk about Black Butte? That experience?
Sure.
So,
Yes.
uh,
Oh, yes.
oh yeah.
That got a lot of attention. And it took me a while to kind of, sit back and assimilate what that was, where it was taken from, like the angle of the sun. And,
Mhm.
that I'll just say it out loud here before we begin. That's an energy portal.
Right. I mean,
Yes.
I figured that out too. A part of me though felt like it was also um like an Egyptian symbol. Like I was starting to see like an ankh in there and like an eye, but that's probably because the day before I was on the mountain and I was connecting with like Ra, and I was like, I really need some kind of validation that I am connecting with you. Please show me something. And then the next day I saw that, and that's what I immediately thought it was. But then I was like, well, that looks like an energy portal. Like, so however, you interpret it, you know?
I've I've been there long enough, and I've evolved through the period where when I first went there and I was drawn to energetic places, I didn't know why,
Mhm.
didn't know what,
Right.
but I came familiar with it. Then once your vibration rises, you begin to see these like
Hmm.
holograms, they're almost holograms.
Right.
And then for whatever reason, we now hold technology in our hands is capable of capturing these
Hmm.
things. So not only images, but videos. And I get to see these things quite a bit because people send me these things all the time.
Sure.
And so when I see them, I don't rule anything out because I've
Hmm.
seen enough things that I didn't understand at first that were sent my way to kind of be the interpreter so that when more things come around, I can be a source to either validate it or say, no, that's nothing. And so when
Right.
I see images like the one you sent me, the first things I want to rule out is, lens flare. And that's why I
Right.
asked you right away.
Yeah, I
I
know.
said, are you shooting this through the window? You go, nope, shooting through an
Nope.
open window. And I,
Nope. We were
oh,
literally coming back down, and I opened the window waiting for like the dust to settle because you're kicking up your back roading, there's dust, everything gravel. And I just
that's two
literally,
miles to the
and it's just
eastern.
weird because I told her to stop the car. I'm like, stop the car. So I'm just randomly taking photos. And I didn't even see it really at first. And then I'm looking back and I'm like, whoa, what is that? Holy shit. Like, oh my gosh, this
Yeah,
is so cool. This energy I picked up.
yes.
Yeah, we were like, and then you commented, you were like, WTF? Like, Lowell,
I
you
know
tell me
that
what you
mountain.
think it is.
I've walked to the top of it. I know where you were. And I wanted to see where the sun was in relation to that. And it didn't have any impact on what was there.
Yeah, I was trying to line that up too. I literally was trying to figure out like how could have that projected where the sun was. Like I always have to analyze things. I am an Aquarius. I research, I research, I research. I can spend hours digging. I spend a lot of time alone when I'm not with my clients, and that's where my best work comes from. Is when I'm alone in my space, and I just go. I go deep.
Do
I
your
go deep.
due diligence. Yeah,
Yes.
I want to know absolutely with as much resources I have at my disposal. I want to get to the answer. So, like you,
Yeah.
after I saw it at first and I kind of looked at it, I stepped back a little bit. Then when I went back to revisit, I like to see things like from, off surface,
Mhm.
like elevated. So I pulled up Google Earth and I was
Oh,
trying to match your picture with that
okay.
perspective so I could tell, okay, where was she standing? And then if I could find an image that matched Google Earth, well, I could pinch it enough and get close and, oh my God, Tracy, I found your spot. Exactly found it. And so when I matched it up, I sent it to Dave that way because I had sent the original picture and then I sent, a
Okay.
screenshot of Google Earth next to it. I said, here's the spot. Here's where she was standing. This is something else. And he had already come to that conclusion before I
Okay.
went to all that trouble.
Wow.
But again, I do these things to prove them to me.
Right, exactly. I know what you
Yeah.
mean. Yep. I do the same thing. I
Yeah.
just need that.
Well, that picture was a sensation. That's not done being a sensation.
Right.
Um, there's going to be those that are going to want to seek out where that picture was taken from. And that's when I do the due diligence, that's what I want to know. I want to see where the spot was. Now, I don't know that that's ever going to replicate. But having said that, we'll talk about the elephant in the room. That little access point, that little vortex portal, however you want to, conform it in your little 3D mind, that's access for craft going in and out.
Right.
That's no other way to say it other than that plainly. I had always had, from the first time I saw Black Butte, and you're going up I-5, because I'd been past that place many times before driving by it, but I'd never been to Shasta and, the consequential other mountains around it. Anyway,
Hmm.
when I saw it from the distance, to me, it always looked like the very tip of like a quartz crystal, but it was just covered with dirt. And if you brushed the dirt away, you'd see the crystal beneath it. Well, to me, it made perfect sense because all this thing was doing is amplifying the energy of that thing over there and redistributing the energy from Shasta herself. And not that Shastina, her little sister, doesn't have her merits because that was where I found my way in.
Hmm. So the funny thing is when we were driving, we could not find like the right path to like get there. It took us a couple tries. And I was like really nervous. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm gonna be truthful. I was not feeling good about it. It's like a single car. What do you do if a car is coming back? I have all these things running through my head. Like my knees were kind of shaking a little bit. My heart was kind of, and I'm just like, okay, my friend really wants to go here. You know, I'll check it out. She's not nervous. So why am I feeling this way? And the energy I was picking up on was, it was almost like they were telling me, like, you're not supposed to be here. But then I'm like, why not? Like, other people have told us to go, like, go. So once I kind of got past that fear and I was grounding myself, I got past that. And when we got out and we were walking, I just felt better. And then I saw these huge pine cones, and I'm so drawn to pine cones. Like, if you know anything about like the Egyptians and the passing of the cones and stuff like that, that just, oh, it was great. And then these butterflies were swarming around me and just telling me it's okay. So we pushed forward. And then
Yeah.
I captured that wonderful, wonderful photo.
The first day I
So,
had gone hiking and didn't know where I was going, the very first day I had come into pine cones like that too. If the
yeah,
I had used the fob, my key fob, and put it next to it on the rock so you get some sense of scale. If the fob
yeah,
was this big, the pine cone was this big.
yeah. I would use my
Wow.
hand. I think I took a picture where I'm either holding it or I put my hand down in comparison because I was just
Oh,
like,
I knew as soon as I
this
saw the picture,
little
I knew what had occurred to you because been there, done that. Holy
yep.
cow. I'd never seen anything that large. And I
Hmm.
grew up in Minnesota where we have lots of pine trees.
Right. I have one like right outside my window, and I'm like,
Yeah.
they're like, they're metal. So that was just like, oh my gosh, I'm like, look at this. I like almost wanted to take it home.
Lots of people do. There's so many of them. It's not like they're going to be missed and they'll be replaced during the next
Right.
harvest anyway. You just
Right.
have to imagine what's the energy in that area when pine cones grow to those dimensions.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that was really cool. So it was kind of nice that like I got over that fear and I mean, honestly, I really don't know where that was coming from. Maybe it was like the unknown. It was super secluded. You know, we didn't see anybody else. We were like the only ones there. So
Well, was your intention to hike up Black Butte, or
no,
what was your intention?
we really weren't. We just wanted to get like as close as we could to see it. Um, and we really weren't there that long. So yeah, I think I was meant to take that picture.
Yes, you were, clearly.
So I mean, that's what I got out of it. I'm like, okay, you just went through all this fear. And then after that, it was just like, woof, I am on a high right now. Like all that fear. And now I'm like, woo, this feels great.
It's it's common was the word that came to mind. Um, that when we start to wander on a forest we've never been in, on a one lane dirt road, it's not beyond us to get a little anxious about conditions
Right.
and how you're going to get out. And yes, all of those endeavors, once they happen to you, you have an appreciation for, which one of us is going to back up until we find a spot. That's the nature of things. And then there's the whole, you, I've learned and had appreciation for the types of vehicles that you can take in there, because some of those back roads become sand, and trying to get your vehicle that doesn't really maybe have enough clearance through that
Right.
is dangerous, because like you
Right.
explained, there
Right.
wasn't anybody else out there. And I don't know if you checked your cell signal. Some places on the mountain have incredible, and I don't know how or where I get 4 bars like up at almost 9,000 feet, but I do. And then there are areas where, you are in the dark ages
Yeah, I
and
kind of
you had no
noticed that
business
too.
being out there.
I'm like, how come like I'm posting from the mountain and then other spots I'm like, I have nothing. Like, what's going on? I
I've
just got it
Zoom
over here
conferenced
and then I'm
from
over
old
there.
ski bowl
Like,
trail.
what is going on? So then like the
Yeah.
other thing on the mountain, like there would be like these hot spots. Like oh you'd walk like 3 feet over and like you're swirl like it felt like the wind was swirling around you and this warm like loving energy. You walk back that way, it's cold again. So I'm still like deciphering like what that was, and it would happen a lot of times.
You're the first person who has kind of tried to articulate what that felt like. Because all these times I've been explaining what it was like when I was chasing energy and I didn't know what I was chasing. You
Mm-hmm.
just described it better than I have to this day. So if somebody else gets to hear this, here's what I've been talking about all this time. Tracy
Glad I could
experienced that
help.
phenomenon. And
Yeah.
when you say that it's happening, a lot, my
Mm-hmm.
frame of reference is when I first got there. It happened a few different times. In the
Mm-hmm.
5 weeks I was there that first year, it happened a few different times. Um, but it wasn't, I wouldn't call it frequent. But again, yeah, I was getting used to things I had no frame of reference for before. And
Right.
so maybe through this assimilation period, it might have been that I just missed and picked up or didn't pick up on a lot of signals because I was still getting used to this environment. But all I can tell you is where this is leading is every year after that. It just seemed like there were more and they were easier to find. It just, what you just validated is, it just seemed like they were everywhere. I think that over the last 4 years, in my experience, it's grown to this place so
Right.
that even the uninitiated are picking up on something that they can't describe.
Yeah. My friend was picking up on it too. Like we would be like whoa, what is this? And then other things that were kind of cool is like I would look like I'm so connected to the wind. So like the wind is like one of my guides. Like I don't know if it's because I'm an air sign or what. I love wind. It's whew, can't talk enough about wind. But looking up at the sky, the clouds would do this amazing like vortex thing. And like they were gonna come down at me, and I'm like, okay, come down, And it was just like I've never seen clouds like that, like swirling. And it was kind of
Well,
like
some of that is clouds, yes, and some of that is not clouds.
right. And I kind of picked up on that too. Otherwise, I wouldn't be bringing it up. Like, oh,
Good.
so that
Yes.
was cool.
The first few times, I was really focusing on what people were trying to sell as lenticular clouds, which is a wonderful little science thing. And for, if you need has some idea, here's an explanation for this phenomenon. The crazy thing that I kept seeing as I looked at it, and I had a 5 week period where I got to look at her every day, these things are not normal. There aren't any other clouds in the sky. And so, how, when you're watching the atmosphere move by her, how does this just park? Yeah. The
Yeah,
more you see it, the more things make sense. And then when you get in tune with that vibration, you begin to see the activity.
right.
And then you begin to spot things like you did, where I actually photographed something. Um, the year after I went to Tellus and went back, wanted to go back to that spot and see what would happen this next
Hmm.
time. To make a long story short, I had to hike it this time around, but man, since the year before, my whole level of dimensional awareness has like skyrocketed.
Oh,
And
sure.
I'm seeing the things you described in terms of I'm seeing energetic fields. I see these places now and they
Hmm.
look like holograms. So the first thing that occurred to me when you sent that picture out to the side of Black Butte, wow, somebody else captured what now I've seen when I went back to these places.
So like we would see I think it was not the first day. I mean, I only spent 3 days on the mountain the whole time I was there. First time. We would see like in the distance like purpley, like energetic, kind of portal-ish energy spots in the distance. And then we'd try to get to them, but then they would like disappear. So I was like, oh shucks, I guess I'm not ready for that yet.
Well, the other thing I learned is that that entire area has magic in it.
Hmm. Oh,
Not that the
yeah,
mountain, I'm not taking anything
yeah.
away from that, but there are
No.
places like Pluto's Cave, different energy. Um, uh, Fairy Falls, different energy. McLeod Falls, different energy. Hedge Creek Falls, different energy, but energy nonetheless. Yeah.
Well,
Then, if you've got more time and you're willing to wander, there's another part of the Shasta Trinity Forest, which is freaking massive. If you take the road from here as though you're going to go to Mount Lassen, there's a place at which you can go back into the forest. 28 miles in on that road, you get to what's called Glass Mountain. It's nothing but obsidian.
ooh, love that.
I was compelled to find it. So I've been there 3 times. The first time it wasn't easy to find, and like I lost connectivity. So no GPS, I just eventually drove far enough that I ran into it. And then when you run into it and you see this pile of rocks and boulders, holy shit, this is all obsidian.
That's That's awesome. We
Hmm.
did drive to the coast. We wanted to, see the Pacific Ocean. So on GPS, it says, okay, you're going to Eureka, California, 103 miles, but it took 4.5 hours. And I'm like, but wait, there's more. On the ride back, we took Highway 101 and we were going through all these vortexes. Like, I mean, extreme. Like, it felt like time and the miles weren't coming off. And it was just like we just kept, it was almost like you're going around in circles, but you're like going. I mean, we're passing through the redwood forest and all that stuff and all that energy. Like, it is so hard to decipher because you're like swirling. We would go through these points where we're like, whoa. And then like my hands are activating, like something is happening here. Like my friend woke up one morning and she had a tattoo of Saturn on her toe that just appeared randomly. But I'm like, oh,
Is
I'm
she
activated again.
metaphysically
I'm
inclined
deactivated.
like you are?
What?
Is she metaphysically inclined the same way you are?
I think
Okay.
so. Uh, what else happened? Um, well,
Well,
yeah,
kid, you're
like,
straddling dimensions, and you've already described that the environment around you just keeps breaking down. The veil keeps getting thinner.
mhm. I'm telling you, it was just like I was not expecting. Like I was connecting with Mount Shasta before I went to Mount Shasta. So I already felt like I was integrating some of that energy, kind of like prepping me in a way. I was already getting I would do like these meditations and I would go so deep. And I have not gone that deep. And I was actually like seeing things and connecting with Ra, like, whoa. And then I would do like a Lemurian like meditation and they'd be like working on my hands. Like I could feel actually, it felt like a person was literally connecting my hands.
They're
So
teaching you how to manipulate energy because that's the next thing.
makes
At
sense.
the day that I met with Kumu on the mountain, that was one of the last things she asked me. She said, "Can you move energy yet?" And I said, "What do you mean yet?" She goes, "Oh, yeah, you're going to be able to move it. You're going to be able to manipulate. You're going to be able to move it." And I
Oh.
went, sign me up for that day.
Okay, I have done that before. You just sparked a memory. I did with my friend that I went to Shasta with. Her name's Jen. We were at, what is that called? The breathing. You like hold your breath.
Infinity breathing.
Pranayama or whatever it's called.
Oh, yeah, I know the term.
Okay,
Yes.
so during
I
that
call it infinity breathing just to make it
okay,
easier.
well, during that group meditation, my friend is next to me, and then there's this guy below us who we didn't know, and our instructor, whatever you want to call her, she's also a shamanic energy clearer. She said during that meditation, she's looking at us, and all three of us are passing this ball around. Like I could feel it. It was energy. And it was like I was playing catch with this energy. And she said that all three of us, out of everybody in the room, 30 people, were passing energy balls. I mean, it felt, I
You're
could feel it.
practicing.
Yeah. Um, I actually saw a big energy ball in my downstairs bathroom as I was passing by. I mean, this was a couple of years ago. I'm just passing by, and all of a sudden, this big ball of like electric blue energy. And then as soon as I went back to be like, hello, it was gone.
Orb.
I don't know. At that time, I was connecting with Zeus. He had joined my team, helping my guides. So at first I'm like, ooh, Zeus throws balls of energy, lightning, blue, stuff like that. So that's where I went with that first. Um, but I don't know what it was, but it was cool. Sometimes it doesn't matter.
No, we're going to be able, not be able, we're going to begin to have more contact with those types of energies. Those
Mm-hmm.
are, the formless things in,
Right.
sixth and seventh dimension that have to come here in some way that our little 3D perspective, it can sense them until our vibration rises and now we see them in our field.
Right. We
But
did
yeah,
also see, I mean, and this is kind of a first time for me. We did both see on our way back from the coast, a spirit. Uh, Driving, forward, we see this guy on a bicycle, and I had to take my sunglasses down, and I'm like looking really close. And she's like, "Oh my God, you see that too?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it looked like a bike rider was going to come right out in front of us." And then as we got closer, poof, gone. I was like, "Well, that's new." I hadn't seen anything like remotely close to that since I was like probably 4, when I would actually see like light beams when I was a kid. And I remember so vividly these light beams, and they would just like appear. Um, Also too, kind of back to like the whole thing that's kind of new to me, the Solarian energy that we're kind of talking about. um when I was a kid, I would actually see these sun faces, like clusters of them, like to my naked eye. And it nothing scared me. It was like I'm trying to figure out like what were those? And I'm wondering if, like, I don't know. I've always been connected to the sun. So
now you have some rationale as to why.
right, which I never understood what those beings were, because they had faces and they would glow. And they would come to me, not always, but whenever I was alone. I
Yeah.
always enjoyed being alone as a child. Like,
Your
I had friends,
vibration
but
determines what you get to experience. And when
right,
there's other energies around us that kind of drop it just to satisfy the conditions for me to interpret this, we don't get to appreciate this
right.
until we're alone and we can achieve that sense. You were talking about your levels of meditation and how they never got that deep. Well, that's really the juice. Once you can achieve that over your being, and that it can be achieved, it's a meditative thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proof that you can get
Mm-hmm.
there, and you can get there regularly. It doesn't
Right.
happen at the beginning regularly
I noticed that because
until it becomes just
I tried
kind of
so
who
many
you are.
times. I'm like, I need to get back to that. And it hasn't happened since. But this was pre-Shasta. So I was
Yeah.
kind of hoping, it would happen again after. But, I do get a lot of visions. Like that stuff happens. But getting into that meditative state where I felt like I was there, I could see everything so vividly, like, wow, that
How do
was
you quiet your mind enough to
that's
quiet it when
that is
there's so many
yes.
freaking downloads
That's
you're trying to unpack?
yes. That's my problem. I always say that I have so much in here. I mean, it's going so rapidly.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, you need to quiet those monkeys. Like get them whew. and daily life for me is go, go, go throughout the day. Like,
Yes.
and I'm working with so many different personalities and energies. And then after work, it's like, do I really want to meditate? Like I'm just drained. So I got to get back into making it a habit because before Shasta, I think I was up to like 40 days in a row where I was consistent. Like I really needed to be in that headspace going into this trip. I felt like it was so important to me. But then I get back and I'm like, what happened? Why am I doing this to myself?
Now you know the difference. You didn't have that frame of reference
Mm-hmm.
before, did you? You just
Right.
lived the life that you came back to, but now you
Yeah.
recognize, hold it, something's
Mm-hmm.
very different.
Mm-hmm.
And I got used to this new condition, and now I'm not there anymore. Well, now again, here was part of the lessons you were signing up for. Now you understand the difference between this and that, and you get to
Yeah.
choose.
Yeah, I just pulled a card this morning and it said I needed to make a decision and choose. So that's pretty
Well,
good.
this one's pretty simple. I know which one I'd pick. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure I know which one you pick. We want magic.
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now that we've been teased with it, I want to see all of it. And there is
Yep.
where I had to learn over a couple year period when these things began to happen. I was settled with the idea that I was here to have these experiences so I could explain them to others that were going to have them as well. I was here to help. And in my little mind, the only way you're going to understand the way I do is to know everything that I know. And that's where my frame of reference was. I began to try and tell everybody everything that I knew. And I knew it was freaking sensation overload. It was for me, but I forgot that. Lowell, you're adapting a lot quicker than anybody else. And there was a reason why you're on this accelerated path. Don't No one knew until 2 years later. Don't expect in to find anyone at your level.
Mhm.
You're not going to for a while, if ever. You just have to kind of acclimate yourself to that.
Mhm.
And that wasn't, I've been looking for touchstones the whole time. It was a harsh reality when I had to resign myself to the fact that they're not ready. They're not
Right.
ready to know the things that you are. There will be some that'll come along that will,
Right.
and you'll know that you can have these conversations with them. But as for the masses, they are not ready for what you know.
Right. I noticed that too. There are a lot of people that they're very far and few. Like, so this is cool connecting this way with other, like-minded people who are seeing these things. But I want more.
Yeah, we cross our paths like this. This is just encouragement for you to continue down your path.
I know.
And at the same time, now that we've rejoined, because some told me this work's been done in past lives or
Mhm.
whatever. We didn't. We had agreed to meet on the path right here, and then um, gather our resources. And it's not just you and me. Wait till
Right.
you meet some of the rest of the tribe and see what gifts
Mm-hmm.
that they're bringing to the table. And no one
Right.
is the same. Their
Exactly.
mastery is just incredible to watch, and nobody has this sense of it's not us and them anymore.
Right.
Nobody thought that we're missing out because all the things in Dave Wallace's head I haven't taken in yet. it took a while to understand that's not what Dave's purpose in your life was. Dave's purpose in your life was to be Dave and be that resource. You're not here to learn all the shit he knows because he's on a different path and he has
Right.
the capacity and already
Mhm.
a whole set of downloads that you don't have and you don't need.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We all have individual focuses that just serves the collective. When it's
Right.
all over our
Mhm.
little individual efforts, and each one was important and didn't get us to the next level without it.
Right.
We didn't recognize that we thought everybody was doing the same thing somewhere else. We were all doing very different things. That was
Right.
an important piece of the puzzle. We didn't get to the next level without.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that. I'm trying to think of there was goodness, there was more things. So like I would hear things on the mountain. Like at one point I was laying on this awesome slab. Um and I started to hear like cicadas. And I'm like, I don't think cicadas are supposed to be up here or whatnot. And I was yelling back to my friend, like, did you just hear those cicadas? And she's only like 10 feet away from me. And she's like not hearing me. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? So then that went away. Then I'm hearing bells.
Well, wait a minute. Did the cicadas sound like big cicadas? So they made like you could almost feel the
Yeah,
vibration?
like the vibration and everything. I was just like, this is so loud. How is she not hearing this? What is happening?
It's been my experience. That's what light beings sound like when they're in the vicinity.
Okay. But then how about this? Also, too, I'm like, did you just hear that huge, like, this thing was massive. It was like this big. And it was like vibrating like a bug or like a drone sound. And it's like zooming right past me. And I'm like, you had to have heard that. Like, I saw it. It like, and she's like, no, I didn't see it. But she's like, maybe that was someone like checking out your energy or something. That ever happened to you?
That's exactly the sound I heard the day I was at Veterans Memorial Park interacting with light beings. I tried, to me, it sounded like I described it as a hummingbird. You know, when they hover like
Okay.
that and their wings start moving so fast, it's like, but the
Yes,
sound was also like
that,
penetrated you,
right.
like you
It
felt
was
the
so,
vibration of it.
it was so loud. Like I'm just laying there and then I'm looking up
Yes.
and this just goes right past me and I'm like, okay, I need to look up. Are there like giant bird like uh bugs or something going on there?
Exactly.
Like
When my thing was over, I was looking in the vicinity for that very thing. I thought it's got to be a critter, right?
that's what
No
I
critter.
thought. I was like, it's gotta be like their state bird, like this big, like I don't know.
The good news for me, there were people in the vicinity, at least one, that validated it and validated to a degree that there were three instances where this sound had perpetuated itself over me here, here, and here. When I left that day, this person validated that they heard them as well and that they numbered three.
Okay, this is so helpful. I'm glad I brought it up because I'm like, what was happening? Like it wasn't scary, it was cool, but I'm just like, why am I hearing this? You know, but that's validation for me to hear that you had similar.
Well, yes,
Yeah.
you
So
described it exactly the same way I experienced it.
yeah.
And I know what they are. I didn't I didn't put any of this together. The very first time I had heard it was the first time that Kumu had asked me to put my arms around a plant and um, she started, well, I didn't know she was taking pictures of the event, but she did. And I heard it then. I thought it was like a bee because I heard some kind of buzzing nearby
Yeah.
and I
Yep.
wasn't unfamiliar with any of these sensations.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just kind of doing what I was told. But I heard a sound that day too. And as I've had these interactions with these light beings, the sound now has, I understand what it is. It's them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that was intention, was to connect somehow. And the ego always wants more, like, well, show me more, but
But see, the ego can only limit it by what he thinks you have in your head. And he wants to dismiss the things that ain't located up here yet. And
yeah,
these experiences we're having, they don't come from that archive.
right.
No, no, they're in Akashic records of ours, yes, elsewhere. But in this little incarnation, we don't have anything familiar in our little box of records up here that our
True.
ego can say, oh, we know what that is. And if we
Right.
don't know what it is, well,
Yeah,
then you should dismiss it.
right. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So,
That's why ego's not driving anymore.
I know. Just trying to think of what else happened. hmm it's like there's so much, and I kind of wish like I had journaled it all down. Um, Stuff like that.
Well, that's
Um,
why we do these afterwards.
right.
Yeah, I had to force myself to journal things. And when I began, it wasn't that the thought that came to me was so freaking profound, Tracy, that I wanted to read it to myself later on. It wouldn't be until later when I started to look through these little notes I kept making to myself that there was something else speaking through me because I don't know where that wisdom came from, but holy
Oh,
cow, it got your attention, Lowell.
right. Um, and then like as I was like pondering all this stuff, because you were like, well, you were like sensing some kind of energy that I was picking up on, and I was like racking my brain. I'm like, what is this energy? What is he talking about? Um and then I remembered I woke up one morning and my friend would always come out and she'd be like, "Did you have any like dreams last night?" Because we were having weird dreams. And I woke up one morning and I'm like, "Yeah, it wasn't a dream, but when I woke up, I saw like Horace's face. Like he was right in my face. And every time I closed my eyes, I kept seeing him and seeing him and seeing him. So that memory didn't come till like way after I was home. The other, like what, like a couple days ago? So I was like, wow, okay, that was cool. I've been working with Horace a lot. Especially with like what I'm doing right now with work, doing the crown healing and stuff, and then um, working on like ascension Reiki and trying to figure that all out. So, like, I'll call on Horace and try to work with him. So, I wasn't surprised that I saw him. It was more so like validation, like, okay, I see you.
I Until I was in Shasta, my curiosity about Egypt and those energies weren't going to happen until I was there. And now they're profound as anything. And there are things going on right now that speak to that.
Right,
That all the prep that I thought I was being prepped for in terms of holding higher aspects that want to express themselves.
right.
2 years ago, I had a very different idea about what I was led to believe that was. Well, now I understand what that was, and what was setting me up for. But it wasn't that. No. And man, I see it clear as anything. But if there's a handful of people on the planet that would understand what is going on, you'd have to have a comprehension of the Solarians and their efforts and what they're here to do, first of all, and how they interacted with those Egyptian gods. And they weren't on my radar any more than Thoth wasn't on my radar 2 years ago, but boy, he is now. And I know what role he plays, and I know what wisdom he loans me, and I know what I gained when I understood the Emerald Tablets finally. Now I understand what all this is for and what we're getting set up for, and people aren't ready for it
Yeah. Yeah,
by
I
by
started
and large.
connecting with all the Egypt stuff before Shasta. And then, even just driving from Oregon to Shasta, I'm like seeing pyramids and I'm like, okay, this is what I've been like connecting with. And then like at the top of the mountain, I would always look at this spot that looked like this. And it
Yes.
was like, I wanted that. I need to go there. Like, I want to go there. Like, I am being called to go there, but I didn't go there. I mean, I hope one day, I can. I mean, I'll be back. But then when I was like, okay, I really need something, you know, that I can like take with me, to have, to take me back to that feeling of that place of like, it just felt like home. It felt so warm and welcoming, and I didn't want to leave. And then I'm looking down and I see this perfect, beautiful pyramid. And then I had to ask it, can I take this? And I think my friend even said, like, you need to ask it if you can take it. And it was like, yes. And I mean, I made it home back to Wisconsin with it. Like it's here. And
Perfect.
it activates. I get the tingles when I hold it. And it's just I'm so glad. But I also left, a lot of things on the mountain for her. Um, Little stones, painted stones, a piece of my Andara that broke. I found a place that is, I'm not going to tell you, but she's
It's
there.
not important. The
Right.
fact that you gritted part of it there, that was
Mm-hmm.
important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I heard this phrase before. You might have heard me say it. I might have even said it to you. When I got to meet Mickey Magic and understood his relationship with Andaras and Lady Nelly and all of that, and what he is still doing, he still had some huge pieces, colored pieces. And when people want a particular color, he would have to take a chisel and a hammer to it. So I was in his shop one day while he was getting ready to process an order, and I saw him strike this thing, and I'm in the other corner, and like the hair on the back of my neck is going up. Like it almost feels like it's painful. And he saw me out of the corner of his eye, and he turned to me and he said, "I'm going to tell you what Lady Nelly told me about these, that they like to be more."
Yeah,
And
he
that
did
made
tell me
perfect
that.
sense
I
with
was
me.
like, yeah, like when initially, like, I was getting into bed with it because, she's my girl. Um, I literally just like threw it on the ground. And at first I'm like, oh no. And then I like recovered so fast from that. Even my friend was like, wow, I thought you would have been like more upset about that because I mean, like, she's been my baby. Like, she's everywhere with me. Like, I I
Well, think
really
of it
wasn't that
this
upset.
way.
So
Part of
I,
our job is gritting the planet with Andaras.
right.
You just took a piece of, and I don't know if she shared her name with you or you have that relationship with her. Part of her was left behind there. That connection will never fail. Never.
Mm-hmm.
Your part of you is always there in that Andara, and you connect it every time you hold her.
Exactly, exactly. And I left a piece of her somewhere else too in Mount Shasta. So, so yeah.
Good. That's also leaving your little light behind in those places because
Mhm.
we're here to anchor light.
Yeah,
We didn't go to Mount Shasta thinking that we were going to get something from her, although we know that we do.
right.
We're light workers, we're light bearers, and our job is to anchor light. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I love that. So that was good.
that's the gig.
Mm-hmm. It sure is. So yeah. I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna, you know, remember more, but there was just so much.
It takes a while to unpack all that.
That's kind of
Every
where
you
I'm
talked
at.
about 3 days there, but I'm certain in every place you went during those days, there was stuff to unpack in just that little moment.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And you got 3 days worth of that to kind of, God, I want to extract everything I can out of what was there. And some of it, we're just not meant to connect the dots until later because
And
the
that's
dots
that's
didn't connect
usually,
yet.
yeah, that's usually what happens. Like I call it a roadmap. Um, how I figure out not just like what happened on Shasta, but as far as like past lives and you know, star systems, light systems, all that stuff. I the more time I spend alone, and this is why I like to spend time alone, is because I get the messages or synchronicities, things like that, that just like show up. And then they keep connecting. So it's like a roadmap. We're going here, then we're going there, then we're going there, then we're going there. And I eventually just like put the pieces together. Yeah.
Eventually.
Eventually, yeah. There's always it's continuous.
I can only recognize the roadmap after I've been on the road.
Okay.
When I left myself open to whatever you wanted to show me next, I don't really know where that takes me. So that takes a lot of trust to just figure out that whatever I'm supposed to get and whatever direction I'm getting pointed in is going to come my way. It has, but the 3D side of me would like to prepare a little better.
Yeah.
I really like to know where I'm going and maybe prepare a little better. That's not the way things are really working out, but it's okay.
It's
It's the
fine.
way they were supposed to.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what we did with Mount Shasta. We were like, we are going to be divinely led where we're going to go. And we just went with it.
Yeah. That's always true for me. But while I was sitting here listening to some of you, I was reflecting back on a remark you just made. I'm looking forward for you to go back and spending time there by yourself.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
been my frame of reference.
Right.
And there wasn't a day that I wasn't there that I didn't find myself on the mountain somewhere. But I had the beauty of if I wished to share my experience with somebody, there were people I could call on. But by and large, I didn't want any of that. I didn't want anyone to disturb me plugging into that.
Right.
And there are still words I can't put to that experience because it's a palpable energy that almost you're like a patch cord and you plug into the mountain when you're there.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I do want to spend time alone on the mountain and just, you know, I know I need
See
to.
what
Let's
shows
say
up
that.
then.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll happen
Yeah, good.
for sure.
Well, anything else you want to cover today?
Well, I mean, I'm so intrigued by the whole Solarian thing and like the sun because after the eclipse, I started to see sun codes or what I think are sun codes. Like I can stare at the sun and then I can draw what I see,
Good.
stuff like that. But that wasn't happening until after the eclipse. So I don't know. I've always been drawn to the sun, sun gazing since I was little. Never understood what that meant. Um, so I'm like focused on that. Like I'm intrigued. I know there's some kind of connection there, and I want more. But it'll come.
Yes, it is. Um, all of that, although it resonated like crazy when it was first that idea was introduced to me. Um, so when I had first read about the Solarians when I had been shown the gold attire allotment information. And that's when it made me curious about, who are these guys and, where does their authority come from? And as much as I had, you asked me where my starseed roots were, I'd point to the Pleiadians because that just resonates with me. But I also have this affinity with Rigel and Antares and Vega and Sirius. Now explain that to me. And so when the idea of Solarians, which was kind of more of like an umbrella being, kind of looked over all of these efforts, to me that made more sense.
Right. Okay, so
And
like I have this huge connection to the Palladians. I was in a group regression and in Mount Shasta, like, we'll back up. In this regression, I so I don't know if I was like working on like systems in crafts, like kind of like a mechanic, um, fixing things and stuff, and then all of a sudden I see like all these ships are like gearing up, like they're leaving, like they're going somewhere. And in Mount Shasta, the ship I saw in my head matched what I saw. And I was like, this is like one of my main reasons was to go to Shasta to connect with some of these, places that I feel like I was from. And it's funny because when I had this regression, I could see myself with like these monitors and buttons and stuff, and I was like in charge. And then I think about like even when I was in high school, like I was so drawn to computers. I took like a Cisco networking class, and like we would take apart computers and like, put everything back together, and I would like call it like the mothership, even though like motherboard. So always drawn to like these technologies and stuff. And like now those little things are starting to like come about. And I I love aviation. I love aircraft. I watch planes. I can tell you the types of planes, what type of engines they have. Like I am just a kid in a candy store. I love all that stuff. So it's like, okay. And I knew an airplane mechanic, and like he took me on the plane and was like explaining this stuff, and it was like almost like I knew all about it, but like I didn't go to school for that, So
not in
it's
this
one of those roadmap
incarnation.
things. It's one of those like roadmap things. Like, okay, I get it. So yeah.
We're just unlocking information we've
Mhm.
had from past lives because it's going to come in handy now.
Yeah, that's the message I'm definitely getting. Hmm. So, so good. I
That's
love it.
right.
So yeah, I mean, anything else you want to touch on?
Not that I can think of. Uh, I may after I listen to this, and then we'll
Mhm.
do a follow up because I don't think this is the last time we're going to do this anyhow.
Right. There'll be more
All
for
right.
sure. For sure.
Well, I'll upload this probably within the hour and I'll send you the link. I'll put it up
Yeah.
unlisted so
Yeah.
you can listen to it. And if you decide later you want to make it public, you just tell me. I know others that have been to Shasta would love to hear your experiences, but
Oh,
it's
I
your call, kid. Your call.
no. I say go ahead. I have
Okay.
no problem with that. I
Not a girl.
want to I mean, what I've kind of been doing in general is like talking more about this kind of stuff to, who I call like normies. I know who I can and I can't, but I have been opening up a lot of people to the idea of things by sharing things. That's what we need to do.
Yes, exactly right. All we can do is plant seeds, and
Yes.
we're just talking about the shit that's happened to us. I'm telling you the
Yeah.
truth about experiences I've had, and now it's up to you. I'm not here to beat you over the head with it and convince you that this is
Hmm.
the way things are. Frankly, I've had my experiences, and there's nothing that you're going to tell me that is going to sway from what has happened. And
Right.
I send you love and light anyway.
Hmm.
But every one of these is a seed we planted with somebody to start to explore their own little curiosities about the
Yep.
things that they didn't understand. And if that's what we accomplished, perfect. Then
Right.
my mission was accomplished just to get you to think about these things, not in the same way I do, because I'm not on your journey and I'm not learning your lessons.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I would express it is like planting seeds,
Yeah.
and what they take from that, like I had one client where I was, opening up more about this stuff and she was like, she just came out and she's like, "Oh, this is so great to hear," because she's like, "I love space. I love the moon." And I was just like, I never knew this about you. So it's those little things that like now we talk about that stuff. It's so cool.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
The
a
time
good,
is right.
yeah.
All
So
right, kiddo. Well, have a lovely day.
you
Okay.
you
I
too.
will.
Thank you.
Yeah, we get out here and there.
I have no idea.